You ever feel like your whole life just flips upside down in 48 hours? Yeah, that was me when my husband handed me an ultimatum: leave for my new lover, or else. Little did he know, the next 2 days would completely shatter the world he thought he controlled. I swear, in that exact moment, it felt like somebody yanked the floor out from under me. 1 second, I was grabbing groceries from the counter, minding my own business, and the next, boom, my husband, the man I built a whole life with, stood there like some cold-hearted CEO delivering a firing notice. 48 hours, he said, like he was doing me a favor. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't throw anything, though trust me, the urge was sitting right there on my shoulder. But instead, I froze. Not in fear, in clarity. Because right then and there, something inside me sparked. That spark wasn't pain. It was strategy. He expected the meltdown, the chaos, the begging. He expected me to fall apart, pack my stuff, and disappear so he could play house with whatever new lover he thought was an upgrade. But nah, he had absolutely no idea who he was dealing with. I remember leaning against the counter, staring at him with this weird mix of shock and amusement. Like, wow, he really thinks he's the main character here. The hero in some dramatic love triangle. His chest puffed out, chin lifted. He had that stupid I won look on his face. But inside, I laughed. Because if he thought I was going to roll over quietly, he was about to have the rudest awakening of his life. I didn't respond immediately. That silence? It freaked him out way more than yelling ever could. You could see that flicker of confusion cross his eyes, like he wasn't sure if he'd pushed too far. Good. Let him sweat. Instead of falling apart, I paid attention. Really paid attention. To his tone, to his body language, to the way he avoided eye contact just a little too much, like even he wasn't fully confident in the garbage he was spitting. And that's when I realized something important. He wasn't in control. He only thought he was. His arrogance blinded him from the fact that I had the one thing he'd never be able to handle: composure. That night, while he strutted around the house acting like the king of some kingdom that honestly wasn't even that impressive, I started mentally building a plan. I wasn't gonna rush it. I wasn't gonna let anger make me sloppy. No. I was gonna use every minute of those 48 hours to burn his little fantasy world to the ground quietly, strategically, beautifully. First step? Observation. I watched him every move, every text, every slip-up. He was careless. Arrogant people always are. He left breadcrumbs everywhere, thinking I was too emotional or too broken to notice. Spoiler: I noticed everything. His sudden late-night calls, the nervous thumb twitch he got when he lied, the way he kept checking the time like he was on somebody else's schedule. It was all fuel for the plan forming in my mind. I didn't pack a single bag, didn't touch a suitcase, didn't even move a sweater off its hanger. No, I stayed calm, patient, unpredictable, and every second I stayed quiet, every minute I didn't react the way he expected. I could feel him getting uneasy because he couldn't read me, couldn't predict me. And a man who relies on control? He falls apart the moment he realizes he doesn't have it. By midnight, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to flip the power so completely that he wouldn't recognize his own life by the time the 48 hours were up. He wanted a breakup? Cool. But he was about to get a reality check. One he would never forget. You ever watch someone who thinks they're in control start losing that grip without even realizing it? That was my husband day. One of his own 48-hour disaster. The next morning, I woke up early. Not because I couldn't sleep, but because I slept great. Like my mind knew something he didn't. This was my game now. He walked into the kitchen with that same cocky swagger, like he expected me to be curled up crying somewhere. But now I was at the table, sipping coffee, scrolling through my phone like it was just another Tuesday. The look on his face? Priceless. He froze for half a second, and trust me, half a second is enough to expose a man's entire soul. He wasn't expecting calm. He wasn't expecting silence. He wasn't expecting me acting like he wasn't the center of my universe. He coughed, tried to act normal, grabbed a mug, and poured himself coffee with his hand shaking just a little. Not much, but enough. Did you think about what I said? He asked. Bro. If only he knew how much I thought. But I kept my tone smooth, controlled. Yeah, I did. I didn't add anything else. I let the silence hang in the air like a weight he couldn't escape. Silence is powerful, especially when the other person is desperate to know what it means. He shifted, cleared his throat, tried to look confident again. You know, it's better this way, for both of us. Sure. Because dumping your wife for a side chick in 48 hours is so healthy. I nodded like I didn't care, and that nod alone rattled him. You could see the questions spinning behind his eyes. Why isn't she crying? Why isn't she arguing? Did she already know something? And that's when I realized something important. For the first time in years, he didn't know what I was thinking, and it terrified him. I spent the morning doing completely normal things. Laundry, cleaning, a long shower. Not because I cared, but because the normalcy made him lose his mind. He kept circling around me like a confused butterfly, pretending he needed things from the living room, the kitchen, the hallway. At one point, he accidentally bumped into me. Sorry, he mumbled. But his eyes were scanning my face, looking for cracks. He found none. By noon, he was officially uncomfortable. The guy kept pacing around, checking his phone like he was expecting someone, probably the new lover, to text him validation. But here's the thing about affairs. They're fun when they're secret. They're messy when they're exposed. And even messier when the person you're betraying is suddenly calm. Too calm. Around 2 p.m., he stepped out to get some air. Translation: he needed to run to his lover and figure out why I wasn't breaking down the way he imagined. I watched him leave from the window, and I swear I smirked. Because what he didn't know was I'd already done my homework. And today, he was walking straight into part 1 of his own downfall. While he was gone, I checked everything: emails, bank statements, shared accounts, mutual investments. The man left digital footprints everywhere. Phones don't lie, bank apps don't lie. Men who think they're slick definitely lie. But horribly. And oh boy, the things I found? He wasn't just cheating. He was planning a whole life behind my back. New apartment lease application. Money transfers to an unknown account. Hotel receipts. A ring order. A freaking ring order. But the funniest part? He'd put half of it in both of our names without realizing it. That's when the real plan clicked. And let me tell you, it was beautiful. When he walked back into the house hours later, sweaty and nervous, I looked up at him like nothing happened. You okay? I asked. He nodded too fast, too guilty, too panicked. And I knew. By the end of this 48 hours, I wasn't just taking my power back. I was taking everything he tried to hide from me. Ever notice how arrogance cracks under pressure? Watching my husband squirm while thinking he's still in control. Priceless. By the evening, the tension in the house was palpable. He kept glancing at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Every little movement I made, pouring water, flipping through a magazine, even stretching, was analyzed, studied, judged. And the worst part for him? I wasn't even doing it on purpose. He tried to act casual, like nothing was wrong. He joked about dinner, suggested we watch TV together, even laughed nervously at a joke he'd made. But his eyes betrayed him tiny flickers of fear, panic, and disbelief. He thought he could charm his way through the day, but I wasn't buying it. I started casually bringing up things he had said months ago, little details he assumed I forgot, like how he promised me we're always transparent, and then quietly hid his banking apps and messages. His face changed, just a tiny twitch at first, but I saw it. Bingo. Remember when you said, I started and paused, sipping my tea. Never mind, forget I mentioned it. That pause kicked off a mental spiral in him. He tried to figure out what I meant, like a detective in his own living room. Around 9 p.m., I noticed he was pacing more now, mumbling to himself under his breath. It was subtle, but enough to tell me he was losing control. His ego couldn't handle the calm, collected me staring at him like he was already defeated, even if he didn't know it yet. I didn't want to rush anything. Patience is everything. I had learned in these years that people like him, who think they're untouchable, crumble spectacularly under subtle pressure. And subtle? That's my specialty. While he fiddled with his phone, I started planting breadcrumbs, a casual mention to a mutual friend about an odd message I supposedly received. Another text left accidentally open where he could see it. Nothing concrete yet, just enough to make him sweat. And oh, he was sweating. Then came the moment of pure satisfaction. He checked his email for the 4th time in 15 minutes and froze. Like he'd just remembered something terrifying. I didn't even need to ask. I watched him, calm as ever, while inside I was grinning from ear to ear. He tried to recover. He sat down next to me, tried a half-hearted conversation. I responded slowly, carefully, keeping my tone normal. I wanted him to think I didn't know anything, all while knowing I knew everything. That mental edge? Sweet. Before bed, he lingered near the doorway, pretending to check on me, but really just lost in his own anxiety. He muttered something about maybe tomorrow and we need to talk, but his voice had no conviction. And I realized, at that exact moment, this man, who thought he had 48 hours to push me out and start his new life, had no idea what was coming. He thought he was the predator, but he was the prey now. As I got ready for bed, I mentally reviewed the plan for the next day. Every little move, every timing, every detail mattered. He didn't realize it yet, but his downfall had already started. And honestly, watching him squirm in his own arrogance? Priceless. I lay down that night, fully aware of the chaos to come. And for the first time in weeks, I slept soundly, calmly, strategically, knowing that the next day, the real work would begin, and I would be ready to take full control. You ever watch someone realize they're not the mastermind, they're the target? Yeah, that was my husband the next morning. The next day, I woke up before him on purpose. Not because I couldn't sleep, but because I wanted him to feel the shift. The energy in the house was different now. Yesterday, he was pacing, sweating, rambling under his breath. Today, I wanted him guessing from the minute his eyes opened. I made coffee like nothing was wrong, played some soft music, packed a small tote bag. Everything looked casual, but strategic. Slow moves mess with people like him. They start wondering, what exactly is she planning? When he finally came downstairs, he looked exhausted. Puffy eyes, tight jaw, like he'd spent the whole night battling ghosts I didn't even have to summon. He stood there, staring at me, trying to decode my morning vibe. "You're up early," he muttered. "Yep," I said cheerfully, like I wasn't in the middle of dismantling his entire fake empire. Long day ahead. That one line? You should have seen his face. Full panic mode activated. He followed me around the kitchen the way a rookie cop follows a suspect. "What do you mean, long day? Where are you going? Are you meeting someone?" I shrugged, giving him nothing. "You'll see. People like him don't fear the truth. They fear the unknown. That mystery eats them alive." He sat at the table, pretending to scroll through his phone, but his eyes kept jumping up at me. Every time I zipped a bag, tapped my phone, or stepped out of the room, his heart practically skipped a beat. I could feel it. Before leaving, I casually dropped the first real hit. "I'll be back later," I said. "Try not to freak out while I'm gone." His jaw clenched so hard, I swear I heard it crack. I left the house, calmly, quietly, smoothly. But inside, I was fired up. This was the day everything flipped. The day his lies, his secret accounts, his backup plans, his little lover, all of it started unraveling. My first stop was to pick up some documents I'd quietly arranged: marriage records, financial statements, property history, bank transfers, and a little surprise, something I'd been saving, a voice recording he had no clue I'd ever heard. The guy at the office handed me the folder and said, "You sure you want to go through with this?" Oh, I smiled. I'm just getting started. Next, I met with someone he really didn't want me talking to. Someone he thought he had wrapped around his finger, his business partner, and his older sister. Both of them had stories, both of them had receipts, both of them were tired of covering for him. I didn't even have to beg, they were ready to talk. By noon, I had pieced together a mosaic of who my husband really was. A liar, a manipulator, a guy who spun webs and thought no one would ever break free. But the best part wasn't the information itself. Fit was knowing he was at home, pacing, calling me, wondering, spiraling. His texts came in one after another. "Where are you? Can we talk? I think we need to clear the air. Seriously, answer me." Yeah, no, he could wait. Around 4 p.m., I walked back into the house. Calm, controlled, ice-cold, confident. He rushed to me like a dog waiting for its owner, asking 1,000 questions at once. I ignored all of them. I put my bag down, took off my shoes, wiped my lipstick, and finally looked at him. "You look stressed," I said softly. His eyes twitched, because he was, and he knew it was only the beginning. "If you think yesterday shook you?" I leaned closer. "Wait until tomorrow." And the way he swallowed hard? Yeah. He knew something massive was coming. He just had no idea what. Ever see someone's confidence crack completely and realize it's your doing? That was my husband by the end of day 2. Day 2 started with him trying to act normal again. That same smug expression he always wore, like he was in control of the narrative. But this time, I could see the cracks. The way his hand shook slightly while pouring coffee. The subtle twitch of his jaw. The hesitation in his voice when he asked, "So, what's going on today?" I smiled. Calm. Casual. Nothing. Really. Just taking care of stuff. He didn't believe me. And he couldn't. Yesterday, I'd left him spiraling, wondering what I had been up to. Today, I'd let him stew in it. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't even look stressed. Just met completely composed, completely untouchable, and completely aware that I was now running the game. Every move he made yesterday, every desperate glance, every insecure question, had given me pieces of a puzzle I'd been planning to solve for weeks. And now, I had all the pieces. I started dropping subtle hints, casually. A comment about a mutual friend noticing his strange behavior. A mention of weird messages he thought he deleted. I didn't even have to do much. The panic in his eyes did all the work for me. By mid-morning, he was pacing again, sweating, fidgeting, pretending to check his phone, but really just trying to figure out if I'd already discovered everything he'd tried to hide. Little did he know I had already uncovered his entire plan. The secret accounts, the hotel stays, the whispered lies to friends and family. And the best part? I documented it all. Everything. Every little move. Every attempt to manipulate, recorded and ready for the ultimate reveal. I let him think he was still in control while quietly orchestrating my next moves. That's when I realized the most satisfying thing about revenge isn't confrontation. It's strategy. It's patience. It's watching someone squirm, thinking they're winning, while you've already checked every box. By late afternoon, he tried to corner me. "Okay. Can we talk?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. I gave him the faintest smile. "Sure," later I said, and walked away. He stared after me like a man realizing his kingdom was crumbling while he still wore a crown he didn't deserve. Evening came and I prepared for the final phase. The reveal. Everything had been leading to this moment. The emails, the documents, the conversations I'd recorded, all pieces ready to drop like a bomb. I sipped my wine quietly, watching him fidget in the living room, pacing, calling his friends, trying to salvage his ego. By nightfall, he was exhausted, mentally drained, emotionally frayed, and just like I had predicted, the 48-hour deadline loomed over him. A man who had been cocky, arrogant, and condescending just 2 days ago was now a shadow of himself, trapped in a web of his own lies. I finally approached him, calm and composed. "Ready?" I asked softly. He nodded, unsure, nervous, the perfect mix for what was coming next. Because by the end of that night, his world wasn't just going to be shaken, it was going to be shattered. You ever watch a man realize the big secret he thought he buried is actually sitting in your hands? Yeah, that moment changes everything. The house felt heavier that night, like the walls themselves were waiting for the truth to explode. He sat across from me on the couch, trying to act calm, but his knee wouldn't stop bouncing. His fingers kept tapping the armrest. His breathing was uneven. He was scared, not of me, but of what I might know. And that was exactly where I wanted him. I sat down slowly, a small folder in my hand. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just a simple manila folder. But the way his eyes locked onto it, he looked like he was staring at a live grenade. So I said quietly, "Let's talk." He swallowed hard. "About what?" I raised an eyebrow. "You tell me." His face paled instantly. He looked away, fumbled with his fingers, tried for a full 10 seconds to come up with some excuse or story or half-baked lie, but nothing came out. Perfect. I opened the folder, letting him see just the edge of a document. Not the details, just enough to make him sweat. "You know," I said casually, "for a guy who thinks he's smart, you're kinda sloppy." He stiffened. What do you mean?" I tilted my head. "Bank transfers, hotel receipts, emails, and that cute little burner phone you thought I didn't know about." His entire body froze. His mouth dropped open just a little, then shut again, like he was trying to breathe but forgot how. Yeah, that's the moment. That's the exact moment he realized the game flipped. I continued, calm as ice. "You gave me an ultimatum, 48 hours to leave and make room for your new lover. But baby," I leaned in just a little, voice soft and lethal, "you forgot who you married." His eyes were glossy, panic swirling like a storm. I spread the papers slowly across the table, one by one. A printed email, a hotel confirmation, a screenshot of a payment, a message thread with her, and then the voice recording. I clicked play. His voice filled the room. Laughing, bragging, telling his so-called friend how he was going to get rid of me and start a new life with that woman. How he thought I was too oblivious to notice anything. How he laughed at the idea of me crying. The color drained from his face so fast I almost felt bad. Almost. He stood up suddenly. I can explain." I held up my hand. "Don't. Not yet." He froze like someone hit pause on him. "You know what the funniest part is?" I said. "You thought you were 5 steps ahead, but I've been watching, learning, planning. While you were sneaking around, I was collecting everything." His shoulders slumped. His breath shook. He finally realized. This wasn't a fight he could manipulate his way through. This wasn't an argument he could twist. This wasn't a lie he could sweet-talk out of. This was checkmate. He sat down again slowly, his hands trembling. "What are you going to do with all of this?" I smiled, sweet, calm, terrifying. "Oh, sweetheart, you'll see." He inhaled sharply. "Please, just tell me what you want." That line? That was it. That was the moment he broke. A man who spent years making demands was finally begging for answers. And I hadn't even started the real part yet. You ever see a grown man panic so hard he starts confessing to things you didn't even ask about? Yeah, that's when you know you own the room. The second I said, "You'll see," something shattered inside him. His whole posture collapsed, shoulders dropped, eyes wide, lips pressed tight like he was holding back a scream. "Me?" I sat back calmly, crossing my legs like this was just another Tuesday night. Like I wasn't holding the detonator to his entire double life. He ran a shaky hand through his hair. I didn't mean for things to get this far, he stammered. I raised a brow. Really? 'Cause that recording sounded like you were having a grand OL time planning my exit. He flinched, hard. Then came the flood, the babbling, the excuses, the pathetic scramble for sympathy. I was confused. Things were messy. She pressured me. I wasn't thinking straight. I didn't want to hurt you. I laughed, quiet, sharp. Oh, trust me. You were thinking very straight. You were just thinking selfish. His mouth opened, then closed again. Like a goldfish realizing the bowl water is draining. I stood up and slowly walked around the living room, letting him sweat through every second of the silence. People like him don't fear yelling. They fear quiet. Quiet means control. Quiet means strategy. Quiet means consequences they can't predict. He followed me with his eyes, terrified. Please just tell me what you're planning to do. Planning? I repeated. Honey, the plan's already in motion. His throat bobbed. What? What does that mean? Oh, I don't know. I shrugged. Maybe it means I talked to your sister. His face drained. Maybe it means your business partner doesn't trust you anymore. His hand started shaking. Maybe it means those private accounts of yours aren't so private. He actually took a step back. Or maybe, I smirked, it means someone else knows what you are doing. He blinked. Who? I walked past him and picked up my phone from the counter, turning it slowly in my hand. That depends, I said. How many people were you lying to? His breathing turned loud, ragged. He rubbed his face, pacing in small, panicked circles. I didn't think. Exactly, I cut in. You didn't think. About me. About consequences. About loyalty. You just wanted excitement. Someone new. Someone easy to manipulate. He squeezed his eyes shut, guilt or fear swallowing him whole. I leaned in. You gave me 48 hours to leave. But you know what's funny? You're the one who should be packing. He snapped his head toward me, horrified. You can't do that. This is my house. Our house, I corrected. Joint mortgage, remember? Or did you forget that while you were busy sneaking around? He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Exactly. Then I dropped another bomb. A soft one. A strategic one. I'm giving you the same thing you gave me, I said. A timeline. Except mine isn't 48 hours. He swallowed. How long then? 4 hours. His eyes went nuclear. What, 4 hours for what? I smiled calmly to decide how honest you want to be before everyone else finds out. He staggered back like I'd hit him. His chest rose and fell fast. His hands trembled. He looked like a man watching the countdown on a bomb he built himself. And then the moment that sealed it. He dropped to the couch, head in his hands, whispering, I messed up. I messed up bad. No kidding. But this? Oh, this was just the beginning. You ever watch someone beg for time? While knowing that every second they waste is another piece of their world crumbling? That was him, exactly. By the morning of day 3, the house was tense, like walking into a live wire. He hadn't slept much, and it showed. Dark circles, twitchy hands, constant checking of his phone, pacing, muttering under his breath. His confidence from 2 days ago? Gone. Completely vaporized. I sat at the kitchen counter, casually scrolling through my phone, sipping coffee. I could hear him in the living room, stumbling over his words on the phone, making excuses to people he thought would side with him. The desperation? Sweet. Absolutely delicious. I didn't rush him. I let him stew. Let him feel the suffocating weight of uncertainty I'd been building over the past 2 days. His every move was predictable. And that predictability? It was my weapon. Finally, he stomped into the kitchen, face flushed, eyes wide. Please, I need more time. Just tell me what you want me to do. Don't make this public yet. I looked up slowly, raising one eyebrow. More time? I asked, calm as ice. What exactly do you think you deserve more time for? He hesitated, tried to speak, stumbled over his words. His palms were sweaty, jaw tight. I can fix this. I'll tell them it's nothing. I'll explain, I chuckled softly. Explain? You've spent months building a house of lies. Do you really think a few words now will fix that? The panic in his eyes grew. I could see him trying to calculate, trying to bargain, trying to figure out some loophole to save himself. But there was none. Not anymore. I pulled out my phone and held it up. Emails, bank statements, receipts, voice recordings, everything. The evidence of his secret life, his cheating, his arrogance laid bare. His mouth opened, then closed again. No way. Yes, I said softly, way. And just like that, the tables were flipped. He, the man who had handed me a 48-hour ultimatum, was now begging me, not for forgiveness, not for understanding, but for delay, for mercy. I leaned back in my chair, smiling, calm, confident, dangerous. You're going to need more than words. And time? You've wasted your chance. He sank into a chair, defeated. I don't know what to do. I took a deep breath. This was the moment I'd been planning for weeks. The moment where strategy, patience, and observation came together perfectly. He had underestimated me at every turn, and now he was paying the price. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't vindictive. I was calculated. I was smart. I was taking back what he thought he could take from me. My life, my dignity, my power. And as I looked at him, sitting there trembling, I realized this wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. It was about reclaiming control over my own world and making sure he knew, in no uncertain terms, that he had underestimated me badly. That night, as he sat silently, head in his hands, I felt a quiet satisfaction. The kind that comes not from shouting or fighting, but from knowing you've completely outmaneuvered someone who thought they could control you. Tomorrow would be the final act, the reveal, the reckoning. The moment when he would see exactly how completely his world had been shattered all in less than 48 hours. Do you ever watch someone's entire world collapse? And know it's your doing? That was my husband when the final countdown hit. The morning of the final day felt surreal. The sun came up like any other day, but inside the house? Tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. He didn't even try to hide it anymore. Dark circles, nervous tics, and that constant pacing, it was all there. The arrogance that had ruled him for years? Gone. Replaced by raw fear. I sat calmly at the table, sipping coffee, reviewing my notes from the past 48 hours. Every text, every email, every receipt, all perfectly organized. I had spent weeks planning, but these 2 days? These had been the true masterpiece. He tried to approach me, voice shaky. Please, I just want a chance to explain everything. I looked at him, cool as ice. Explain? Oh, sweetheart. I already know everything. The words hit him like a truck. He froze, jaw tightening, eyes darting. He tried to speak again, but I raised a hand. Silence. That silence did more damage than any yelling could. Then came the reveal. Slowly, deliberately, I laid everything out. The secret hotel stays, the hidden accounts, the texts, the voice recording where he laughed about planning my removal from his life. Each piece a dagger, cutting deeper into the ego that had been untouchable for years. His face changed with every page, from disbelief to panic, from panic to guilt. By the time I finished, he was slumped in the chair, completely drained, muttering, I didn't think you'd find out. I leaned back, letting the gravity of the moment sink in. You underestimated me. That's your biggest mistake. For the first time. He looked like a man seeing the consequences of his actions clearly, like a kid caught red-handed. Except, this wasn't a prank. It was reality, and he had no way out. I could see him replaying the past months in his head, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. But there was no fixing it. The damage was done. His arrogance had met my patience, strategy, and observation, and it had failed spectacularly. I didn't shout, I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I simply sat there, calm, composed, untouchable. And that, more than anything, broke him. Finally, he looked up, tears welling in his eyes. "What? What do you want from me?" I smiled, soft, lethal. "I want you to understand. I don't just walk away. I take control. And you? You just watched me do it." He sank further into the chair, defeated. No words left, no pride, just the realization that his world, the one he thought he controlled, had been shattered by the woman he underestimated. And in that silence, I felt it, the quiet satisfaction of someone who not only survived, but completely outsmarted the person who tried to destroy her. By noon, he wasn't speaking. He wasn't moving much. He just sat there, staring at the documents, the evidence, the undeniable proof of his own downfall. And I felt powerful, calm, free, strong, victorious. You ever realize the person who tried to destroy you is now completely at your mercy? Yeah, that was my husband sitting in front of me. By the afternoon, he had completely unraveled. The man who had swaggered around the house 2 days ago with that smug grin was now a shadow of himself. His hands shook as he picked up coffee, his eyes constantly flicking to the folder I had left on the table. Every so often, he glanced at me, like hoping I'd somehow be merciful. But mercy wasn't on the menu. Not today. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my legs, and studied him. This was the moment I had been preparing for months, the moment everything came together. I had all the proof, all the leverage, and more than that, I had him exactly where I wanted him, powerless, panicked, and completely aware that he had no way to regain control. "You know," I said softly, "I've been thinking. 48 hours. Sounds about right, doesn't it?" He flinched. "What? What do you mean?" I smiled. 2 days is all you gave me to pack up and leave. 2 days is all it took me to completely understand who you really are. 2 days is all it took for me to turn your world upside down." His mouth opened, then closed. He had no words. Only fear, only guilt, only realization. I started going over every little betrayal, every hidden lie, every manipulation he'd done behind my back, and I didn't need to shout, I didn't need to accuse. I simply laid it out calmly, one piece at a time, letting the weight of it all crash down on him. The emails, the payments, the messages, the hotel stays, the voice recordings, all of it. Each revelation hitting him like a brick. Each piece of evidence stripping him of the false confidence he had clung to. By the time I was finished, he was trembling. His hands gripped the table edge, his knuckles white, his eyes wide with disbelief. I didn't think," he muttered, voice cracking. "Exactly," I said softly. "You didn't think. You never think about me, about us. You only think about yourself. And now you get to watch me take back everything you thought you could control." I could see it in his eyes, the shame, the fear, the complete understanding that I had not only survived, but had outplayed him at every turn. And the realization that his arrogance had led him straight into my trap. Priceless. He finally slumped back into the chair, exhausted, defeated, speechless. The man who had given ultimatums, who had tried to push me out, who had thought he controlled everything, now knew the bitter truth. He had been outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and outclassed. And I felt the quiet rush of triumph, the calm, confident satisfaction of someone who had turned pain into power, betrayal into strategy, and heartbreak into victory. The next 48 hours hadn't just been a countdown. They had been a transformation, mine. By evening, he no longer tried to argue or bargain. He just sat, head bowed, silently acknowledging the reality I had created. And I finally allowed myself a small smile, knowing that I had completely reclaimed my life, my power, and my peace of mind. You ever watch someone realize they're not the hero of the story? They're the villain? Yeah, this was the moment my husband finally saw himself clearly. The silence in the house felt heavier than ever. Not tense, not angry, just real. For the first time in years, there were no lies mixed into the air, no fake apologies, no carefully crafted excuses drifting around like smoke. Just truth. Truth he couldn't outrun anymore. He sat across from me, head lowered, fingers trembling as he tried to piece together the ruins of the life he had shattered. There was no point pretending now. He knew it. I knew it. And for the first time, I saw something I had never expected to see on his face. Fear of losing me, fear of losing everything, and fear of himself. I let the silence stretch. He needed to sit in it. He needed to feel it. Finally, he whispered, voice barely holding together. "Tell me what you want me to do, please." Not the arrogant tone he used before. Not the "I control this marriage" tone. Not the man who once ordered me to leave in 48 hours. This was a man stripped down to the truth, broken, exposed, and realizing too late that he had pushed the wrong woman too far. I took a slow breath, keeping my voice steady. "First, you're going to sign everything. Every transfer. Every document. Every agreement. You don't get to hide behind lawyers or excuses. Not this time." He nodded instantly. Too quickly. A man who had run out of options. A man who knew he had lost the game he thought he invented. "And second," I continued, leaning forward so he couldn't escape the weight of my words, "you're going to stay out of my way. No manipulations, no threats, no blaming me for your choices. You want to rebuild your life? Fine, but you're not rebuilding it on top of mine." His eyes lifted, red, defeated. I'm sorry, but the thing is, he wasn't apologizing for betraying me. He was apologizing because he got caught. Because the power he used to enjoy was no longer his. Because he finally understood that the woman he underestimated was the one who could destroy him with a single move. I didn't say I forgive you. I didn't say we'll work through this. I didn't even say I don't believe you. I simply stood up, calm, confident, untouchable. And as I walked past him, I said quietly, "You should have never given me 48 hours. The moment I stepped outside, the cool air hit my face, and a strange feeling washed over me. Not sadness, not anger, not even revenge. Freedom. The kind of freedom that hums in your bones when you take back every piece of yourself someone tried to break. The kind of freedom that makes the world feel wide, open, and finally, yours. Behind me, the man who thought he controlled everything was now trapped inside the cage he built with his own choices. And me? I was stepping into a new chapter, one I had written entirely on my own terms. You ever feel the quiet satisfaction of watching someone realize they underestimated you? Completely? That was my husband, sitting there, powerless. The evening settled in with a calm that felt almost unreal. Outside, the sun dipped behind the horizon, painting the sky in soft oranges and purples. But inside, the atmosphere was charged electric. He sat quietly, head bowed, knowing he had no words left to defend himself. I walked around the house with deliberate ease, checking a few things, casually glancing at him as if he weren't even there. But he was there, glued to the couch like a man waiting for a verdict. Which, in a way, he was. I paused in the doorway and looked at him. I could have made this messy. Screaming, accusations, drama. He flinched. But I didn't. I continued, soft but firm. Because I don't need to prove myself through chaos. I need to prove myself through results. His jaw tightened. He realized that Everything had changed. The ultimatums, the threats, the arrogance, they all meant nothing now. The woman he thought he could manipulate had transformed the game entirely. I started collecting the folder with all his evidence, stacking it neatly on the counter. Everything you thought was hidden isn't. Every lie, every betrayal, every secret documented. He flinched at the word documented, a reminder that there was no escape, no rewriting history, no smokescreens. You thought you could control me in 48 hours, I said, pacing slowly, letting each word sink into his conscience. You thought you could scare me into leaving. You thought you could replace me without consequences. But you forgot one thing. He swallowed hard. What? I stopped, turned toward him, looking him dead in the eye. I'm not just anyone. I'm the woman you married. And I never play the victim role. The weight of that statement hit him hard. He realized finally that every single move he had made, every secret he had kept, every betrayal he had attempted, it all had been a mistake. And not just a mistake, his downfall. He slumped back, silence overtaking him. No excuses, no defenses. Just a man who knew he had lost control. I could feel the shift completely. Not only had I reclaimed my power, but I had also redefined the boundaries. I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. And he? He was watching the woman he underestimated transform right before his eyes. I walked past him, casually, letting the quiet dominance settle over the room. Remember this, I said, almost whispering. Underestimating me was your first mistake, and your last. For the first time in years, the house felt like my domain again. I had taken back my peace, my power, my dignity, and the man who had tried to control me? He had no choice but to accept the consequences of his own arrogance. And as I stepped outside, feeling the night air brush my face, I realized something important. This wasn't just revenge. It was liberation. Pure, unapologetic, unstoppable liberation. You ever reach that moment where you finally breathe, like for the first time in years? That was me, walking away from the man who thought he could break me in just 48 hours. The night air felt different now, not just cool clean. Like the world had been washed, and all the noise, all the chaos, all the suffocating tension had finally faded into the background where it belonged. I stood outside, hands in my pockets, staring up at the sky. For the first time in a long, long while. I wasn't scared. I wasn't unsure. I wasn't lost. I was done. Done being quiet. Done being controlled. Done pretending everything was fine. Behind me, inside the house, I knew he was still sitting on that couch. Frozen, ruined, small. The man who once barked orders at me now looked like he was made of dust. And the wild part? It wasn't even anger I felt. It was peace. A deep, grounding, soul-level peace. He came outside slowly, shoulders slumped, almost afraid to speak. "Are you leaving?" he asked, voice soft, like someone asking a question they already knew the answer to. I didn't even look at him at first. I let the silence stretch, let him sit in the discomfort he had forced on me for years. Then finally, I turned my head slightly. "I'm not the one who was supposed to leave," I said calmly. "Remember? You wanted me out. 48 hours. Ultimatum. Your rules." He swallowed hard, guilt choking him. "I messed up." He stopped himself, voice cracking. "No, I destroyed everything, and I don't know how to fix it." I looked him dead in the eyes. That's the thing, you can't fix what you broke on purpose. And in that moment, something inside him shattered. Not anger, not denial, reality. Pure reality hitting him like a brick. He stepped closer, desperate. "Please don't leave. I'll do anything." But the thing is, I had already left. Not physically, not yet, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I had moved on the moment he handed me that ultimatum. The moment he chose his lover over his wife. The moment he underestimated me. I crossed my arms and took a deep breath. "You didn't lose me today," I said quietly. "You lost me the day you forgot who I was." He froze, and I watched the truth settle into him like cold water. No screaming, no dramatic exit, just honesty, brutal, clean honesty. I turned and walked down the porch steps, every step feeling lighter, freer. "I'll send you the final papers," I added. "Sign them. Don't fight them. It's done." He didn't stop me. He couldn't, because deep down, he finally understood something he had ignored for years. I was never weak. I was never replaceable. And I was never going to stay where I wasn't respected. As I reached the end of the driveway, my phone buzzed. Friends, my lawyer, even my sister texting to check on me. Support. A whole network of people ready to catch me, hype me, help me rebuild. I smiled. A real smile. Not the polite I'm fine one. And right there, in the quiet of that night, I promised myself something. I will never let someone write the script of my life again. One choose me. My peace, my future, my power. The 48 hours he thought would break me became the exact reason I rose stronger than ever. And as for him, he learned the hard way that you don't hand ultimatums to a woman who knows her worth, because the moment you do, you lose every piece of the world you thought you controlled.